and with me we have Matthew Castro, named the new head coach to the RGV Vixens. Coach, how's it going? Thank you for coming on with me this afternoon.
Doing pretty good today. It's been a good day. Thanks for having me on.
And no problem, Coach. Just first and foremost is how you been over the last couple of months, summer? I know that's just been the big theme since we started these shows, talking to everybody and how they're doing, how they're coping. How are you? How's it going in your neck of the woods? I know up and down roller coaster, especially with the football league and everything.
Yeah, it's been going pretty good though. We've been doing everything we can, do the social distancing. My family, we do our best to not really go out so much, stay home. We've gotten really into watching TV, Netflix, Hulu, shows like that. Basically, what we do, walk our dogs, just have a good time, best we can.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of those shows you watching on Netflix and Hulu?
I'm a big DC comic guy, so I watch all the, try to catch up with all the shows, the Arrow, Flash, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's been a big deal the last couple of years. So it's a lot of shows to watch, so a lot of time. So I'm sure you're happy to come up and be able to have some time to sit down and connect all those pieces. I know it's real confusing.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Well, that's good, Coach. I'm glad you're able to still find some shining light here throughout all this. And another thing, so just tell me about your football background a little bit, and then. What I know you've been named head coach. We'll start there. Just to be able to take over this team, this little franchise here, who went to the XFL championship game this year. In the shortened playoffs and whatnot. But to be able to get this opportunity, replacing Coach Eric Kersey, who had been there, and coached the team really well. So just to be the next man up, Coach, what does that mean for you?
Well, it's an honor for me to take over as head coach. I think Coach Kersey did a real good job. I believe he's going to stay on the staff and help us on the defense side of the ball. With me, it was more had to be the right situation, the right team, the right owner, the right person that was going to be able to allow me to come in and make some changes if I have to make them. As far as the philosophy of the team, the offense of the team, certain things, the way we do things, practices of the team, the way we do practices, the way we run practices, stuff like that. Talking to the Vixens manager, Lisa, was it was very good. I had coached there before. I was a quarterback coach there 3 years ago. I think it was the Vixens' second season. I was a quarterback coach there, so I knew the owner and I knew the manager there. So when we talked. It was more about if we were going to be able to mesh together, my philosophy, my way of thinking, and their way of thinking, and everything went good, and I'm excited actually to get back out there. I haven't coached in about 2 years.
Okay, all right, and yeah, just we'll start with your football background in general. I mean, just in the world of football, tell us about Matthew Castro on the field.
Sure. I started actually coaching when I was really young. Of course, like a lot of other coaches, I started coaching Little League football back then in, I don't even know the year. I was like 19 around there when I started coaching. And I fell in love with it right away. And I knew this is what I wanted to do. So, a few years later, I was able to get hired as a paraprofessional at Edinburgh High. And I coached under Robert Vela. And okay. I learned a lot there, from Edinburgh. I learned from Coach Vela. I learned how to be a head coach. I learned how to be a leader, to lead by example, to delegate to the other coaches, to trust the other coaches, to just be that person and lead to get the best out of everyone, the coaches, the players, and stuff like that. The quarterback coach there, which the person I was under, Coach Jaime Sanchez, I learned a lot from him, so much from him. I think one of the best lessons I ever learned was not to look at a player and judge them by what you see in front of you, more look at them, see the potential they have, and with your help, what they could be. And that's something I've carried with me ever since, back then. And it's always helped me, especially with coaching quarterbacks. I've coached some quarterbacks for a long time, at the personal training them at different quarterbacks on the high school level. It's seeing the drive. It's one thing to have a great arm, and it's one thing to be fast and talented. But when someone comes in and is ready to work and willing to work, and they put that hard work into not just the physical training, but the mental training, learning the defenses, learning the difference between a man, a zone defense, the nickel defense, the 4-3 defense, just so much that they have to learn, even going into every game, you want them to learning, to that next level learning, what corner are you facing, what corners are you facing, which one's weaker, which one do you want to pick on, stuff like that. It's all this stuff that I learned from that man. And, then of course, Coach Cáceres, Joey Cáceres, who had took over for Vela, I learned how to play call from him, how to more or less, take what the defense is giving you, how to set up plays and stuff like that. So I learned that from him. And I've just been really fortunate that I've learned from a lot of really, really good coaches, not just in Annenberg, the late coach, Luis Navarro, who passed away a couple months ago. I learned a lot from him. Also, Coach Navarro taught me, while I was calling the plays, to stay calm, slow things down. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned from him, and I'm so thankful because I think it just got me to that whole other level, was change things up, you know what I mean? While you're calling plays, be able to adjust on the fly. Yeah, it's good to be the coach that to let, take what the defense gives you, but you also want to change it up and get aggressive and take what you want. And it's a good way because, all coaches have tendencies, and this is a good way to keep defensive coaches from getting your tendencies.
Yeah, no, definitely, Coach. And those are some impressive names to learn under, definitely. But how about in high school? What did you play? Where did you play?
Well, I went to Nicky Rowe High School, and I was around some very good players. I unfortunately back then I just didn't get it school wise. I loved playing football, but my grades were never really good. So it's not like I was, I never really clicked for me then. I've always tell people now, even that story, that it didn't click for me until after high school, what I really wanted to do. And then I took school very serious. You know what I mean? So for me, it was that. But I made some really good friends, some coaches now. Bernie Luna's a coach now. Ronnie Flores is like one of my best friends. And, I can be with Ronnie at his house and we're hanging out, barbecuing, and then we'll start going over football stuff. Oh, what are you going to do with the defense does this? What are you going to do with the offense does this? Stuff like that. And we'll go like all night talking about stuff like that.
So at what point did you transition from being, on these staffs, on an assistant to, maybe women's football? I mean, what was the stopgaps between there? I mean, just how did you kind of get into this realm here?
Okay, well, right after Vela passed, I stayed there for one more year, and then I decided to open like my own training facility. I wanted to train quarterbacks.
Okay.
My buddy Randy Enriquez, he wanted to, help me work. Where we just started training athletes, and that went really good for a while. For a few years, that's what I did, and I met some very good athletes, and it was a really good time in my life. It wasn't the stress of coaching an actual team, just focusing on the player, helping that player get better, try to get them to that next level. So that's what I was focused on there for a while, and then a buddy of mine, Santiago Cruz was the first one. He asked me if I wanted to coach with the RGV Cheetahs and to be the quarterback coach. Everyone knew that I had been coaching quarterback, and I said, sure. At the time, I was already committed to coaching with the Annenberg Land Sharks for Joe Ramirez and the quarterback. So it just became a scheduling conflict. So I wasn't able to finish the Cheetahs season. But the very next season, Roy Cordova, the first head coach for the Vixens, he reached out to me about wanting to coach quarterbacks. So I did that, and that was my first real realm around women's football. And doing that, I did the sit back method. I was a position coach. I had to sit back and both the Sharks and the Vixens. In that second season, I was doing both quarterback jobs for both teams. So I sat back and I was able to learn, and I learned a lot because I was able to learn from, I tell my players all the time, you can learn from good and bad from other people. And I was able to learn from the guys that are calling plays at those teams. I was able to sit back and learn and put notes away thinking like, well, I don't think that's going to work, or this will work. Or what if I did it this way? What if I did it that way? And able to stash it away for when I got my opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, I mean, you said this is going to be your second stint with the Vixens. When
Hmm.
did you? Was there a little in between there? Where were you in between that?
Okay, yeah. Well, it was actually that season that I was coaching the Vixens. Like I said, I sat back and I thought a lot, and where I got the idea, because you just see a lot of coaches at that time, and you see more coaches developing it more now. But at that time, you saw a lot of coaches in these leagues that would water down the football system. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And water it so down, like it reminds you a lot of Little League. And I started thinking to myself, well, if I opened a team and I didn't water down football, but I brought the football level up of the players, we're going to be a very hard team to stop. So one day, it was right after. It was a matter of fact. I think it was right after the Vixens' last game that year. I came. I'm originally from Mission. They're in Harlingen. So I drove home, and a buddy of mine, Abel Serna, we went to Whataburger, and we started talking about it because he had been coaching for the Cheetahs too. So we had been talking about it, and I told him, I think I want to open a team. I think I want to start a team, and I have the perfect name. Thinking back to Coach Vela, Vela always had these sayings that he would always say in practice. He'd always tell the coaches, "Hey, I'm the general. You guys put my plan together, but I'm the general." So for me, that's the name, Generals. So that was the first step to naming the South Texas Generals, and so that's how I started that.
Yeah.
And I was the head coach for that team, and going to the next thing it was putting the right staff together. So my first phone call was to Randy Enriquez, which was the defensive coordinator, and
Uh-huh.
and I was like, no, I need to lock him up. I know the offense, but I need to lock up Randy. And then right after him was Daniel. I was like, okay, defense is important, just as important as the offensive line, in my opinion. We got to get Daniel on board, and we did. We were able to get Daniel on board through Abel and through Randy, that knew him better than I did. I was able to talk to Daniel, tell him what I wanted, my plan, what I wanted to do as far as the offense, and we agreed. And so when I stayed with the Generals for 2 seasons, I was the head coach. After that second season, I when I decided to sit back and focus more on my personal life, I I knew I left it in good hands. Danny's a real good guy. He's a strong character, and but I know a lot of strong characters that are good coaches at heart. And Danny, I believe I left it in good hands. And for me, like I said, I think he's done a real good job over there. I just don't know if any of the new players know where that general name came from. So if you're watching now, you know that it came from Coach Vela.
Yeah, we heard it here, folks. And yeah, definitely the Generals were left in good hands before we looked at the season here, the XFFL. The Generals were right there. They were the top they were the top team. They were a really dominant team. They had already knocked off the eventual champion, the Texas Phoenix Fire, who we all saw just boat race the Vixens there in that final game. But it wasn't anything that the Vixens can really match up with them. That's a very talented Phoenix Fire team, and it was. So we saw how talented they
Yeah.
were. The Generals were. The Generals had already topped them once, so I mean that was a very good team. But it was a decision we all respected. The Generals sat out, as many of the leagues did. That's why we ended up with the playoff. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but observing that, coach, I mean, just how do you how, what were your feelings about how the three-team playoff came to be, and then most of the league choosing to sit out? I mean, I know it was rough. I think they only played like 3 or 4 games. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of tough. I mean, it was a hard decision for a lot of people, especially the Generals, who thought they were, who looked to be on the fast track to the title game. So,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. To be honest, at the beginning when it all started talking about if we're gonna continue playing, at the beginning I was I mean, and still now there's a part of me that's very against it, because like these coaches that I learned from, it was always our number one job is our player safety. That's our number one job. Even when you got to protect them from themselves, because no player is going to say, "Oh no, I don't want to play." Sometimes we have to protect them from themselves. Um, and the league side, I understood that decision out as well. Like, we have to have someone as a champion. I get that also. You know, as being a part of that of the general legacy, the general name, the people that we put that together, and Danny just took the ball and kept rolling with it. It was upsetting to see them, they decided to step back, and I understand that 100%. I probably would have made the same decision. More than likely, I want to say 95% myself, knowing myself, I would have made the same choice Danny did. But just to see them, lose out on that record or lose out on another championship like that is sad. And I don't blame the league, because I can't blame Danny because of COVID. I can't blame the league because of COVID. It just, it happened. Certain people made certain choices. Other people had to make other choices, and it is what it is.
For sure, and that's one of the things. Like you gotta look at it at both sides, and some people might think reckless, some people might think like, what are you doing? But it's just to me personally, like I said, it's one of those things you got to respect on both ends, and it certainly was. I know that it was a tough decision for the Generals to come about. I know that I thought it was a very mature decision by those who wanted to sit out. I thought it was a very mature decision and a great decision for those who wanted to play. So it's one of those things you got to just really look at it at both ends and understand, Coach. But we did see the Vixens play 2 games with Real Sports. We broadcast those 2 playoff games, and the Vixens look pretty sharp. Your quarterback's coach, you have a pretty solid arm there in Serena Arevalo. She didn't really pass too much in the playoffs, but she's capable of it. I know Coach Kersey said she likes to sling it, but you got a lot of good backs and then some good skill position players. Just overall, looking at the makeup of the team, of what you know about it now, just what do you see yourself getting into, and what are you most excited about?
Well, my first year coaching with the Vixens, Serena was one of the quarterbacks, so a lot of that technique stuff comes from me anyway. So I'm excited to get a chance to work with her again. I'm excited to get a chance to be the play caller and have Serena be the quarterback. So I never really got that chance. So now I do. So I'm excited to see what I can do with that. And the team's really put together very well. I saw them this season at the XFFL Jamboree here in I forgot where it was. I want to say it was at the Spartans field. So I got to see them play, and that team's put together pretty well. Sometimes it just takes that next step, that next level to get a team over that hump, and I believe I'm the person I can get that done. I've known how to do it. I've done it before, coaching in different, like I said, different places. I've coached all over. Even in between, when I left the Generals, I was still coaching. I was coaching at Idea McAllen for the flag football team. I was the head coach for that team, and it's just a different challenge, but it's the same. You do the same philosophy, you believe in the same beliefs, and you work hard, you get those same results. So that's what I'm expecting bringing into the Vixens. I haven't really got a chance to talk to most of the players, but I hope some of them are watching, and if they are, I'm excited to work with them. I'm excited to get to work, and I'm excited to lead them to I feel it's going to be a championship season this year.
And you mentioned some of the things about, keeping the same philosophy. And then, you said whenever you first started, you had teams that you saw coaches maybe water down the playbook. I mean, because it's I don't want this to sound crass, but they probably thought, okay, it's a women's football league. It's got to be fixed a little bit. But, obviously you, like you said, you brought the philosophy, look at what the potential is for these players. And it's worked out, and I think the league and a lot of people have really followed. I think you've seen more coaches open up the playbook, more coaches run different kinds of formations, and the football has been really good. I mean, in the XFFL alone, the Generals are really good, the Vixens are really good, the Texas Phoenix Fire, they have very athletic players. They've all been very good, and then in some other leagues also, there's been kind of a boom. And a women's football league, I personally, even up to a couple of months ago, didn't realize how many football leagues and football teams there were in the Valley alone. Yeah. So it's just kind of over the last decade or so, it's just been this boom of women's football. First of all, what made you believe that you didn't have to water it down? What made you believe, like, hey, I want to open up a football team, and I just want to coach it the same way I coached in the football league?
Well, I got the formula from, of course, from great coaches. But I thought of that because I saw the way coaches were coaching it, and they were coaching like if they were coaching Little League to help the player understand, to make it easier for them. That's what they wanted. And I understand that. I completely understand that. Like I said, my first stint of coaching was coaching Little League football. But I remember back then, I also thought the same way. Well, if I can, I'm going against these other coaches, and if I can get my young players to understand a higher level of football, it will be very hard to stop. And I did that. I remember, I think it was, I can't remember. I want to say 2010 around there. I was coaching Little League again and Mission, and I had the same kind of, format. We're going to do things, try to bring the players up to our level. We did that, and we did some very, we had very good seasons. We were able to, win those championships there at the Mission Little League City League, and that was really good for us. And some of those players that I coached then, I'm still very close to. They're off now after college and they're doing their stuff. But that's why I first started seeing it, that okay, it worked. Now bringing it to women, the women are older and they have a lot more understanding. Of course, they're they can do it just as good as boys, or even better. Some of them are even better than some guys I've coached. You know what I mean? And so that was my thought. Okay, I'm going to take a team, and I got to get the right guys around us, and we all have to have the same understanding. Well, we're not going to water down football. We're going to bring them up to our level, and it worked. With the Generals, like I said, that those first 2 years it worked. I took that quarterback that year. Her name was Dalia Camargo, and she had never played quarterback ever. And if you saw her throw at the beginning, some people were like, "Man, she can't do this," and I'm like, I know what I'm doing. It'll take me a couple months, but she'll be ready for the season. And sure enough, man, she was a beast. She had the physicality and the tools to do it. I just had to show her how to do it. And when she got the understanding of the offense, it was game over.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed the games that I've seen over the last couple of years, you definitely see the type of athletes they are, and they're not just I mean, a lot of girls have come on and with no athletic background, but a lot of these girls do have athletic backgrounds, and they've been very successful, either track athletes or softball. There was even a volleyball coach from Harlingen High who came out a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was all these walks of life, and you have all these women who just really come out and really want to etch their name, on the football field. Do what the boys are doing, and they've done it at a high level. There's a lot of talent here. Just what's your opinion on the boom of these females really taking an interest and wanting to play the game and doing it as well as they've done?
Well, with me, it's simple. For me, it's always been simple. If you coach it the way you taught it, I mean, the way you learned it, mm-hmm. that made you fall in love with something, anything. It could be anything. If you like to paint, if you like to do whatever, if you teach that passion with the passion that you learned it from, it's going to be very easy for players to fall in love with something. They fall in love with it without it. But if you coach from that, and teach from that, you're going to get players that are going to give you their 100%, and that's really what you want. With me, it's about that. My goal at any team I've ever coached, whether it's boy, girl, whatever, it's always been, I want the player to get a better understanding of the game from when they started to when they ended. Did they learn more? Especially with the girls, my train of thought was my goal, especially like the Vixens I'm going into, my goal is going to be, I want to make sure those players are going home to their husbands, their dads, their boyfriends, and they're able to have high IQ of football, that they're able to have a good conversation, that they know they can break down on offense, they can break down on defense, they know what this is, what that is, and that's what my goal is, that they have a complete understanding of football and the love for the game. I've heard so many players, and I've seen it myself, that so many of these women players love the game, and it's easy to fall in love with because it's a game I fell in love with. It's a game that so many other players fall in love with. So that it's great to have that passion, but you put that passion together with the knowledge, you'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, for sure. And I've spoken to some of these players at length. Just the understanding they have for the game is very impressive, and they're very knowledgeable, and really great athletes that we've come to know. You as a coach, and I asked some of I've had the Generals on here, I had the Vixens on here. And I guess one of the things I told him is, what would be your message to some of those females or ladies who are on the fence about maybe wanting to come out to the gridiron, who maybe think like, oh, maybe I don't belong? What were your words, as a coach, somebody who's been around it, what would your words be to them?
Don't be afraid to try it. Don't be afraid to try it. I understand it's a physical sport, and you're gonna have some players develop quicker than others. But if you come in and learn, my main thing is learning. Be a sponge. Be a sponge. Come in and learn. That's what I did. My first, going back to, coaching at Edinburgh, I was a sponge. I used to walk around with a little notepad, writing down everything. Coach Sanchez, I see him today, and he'll still say, hey, you have that little green notepad. I would write down everything. I soaked it up like a sponge, and that's what you have to do. It's great to be fast. It's great to be strong. And don't get me wrong, we're going to do our best to get every player strength up and speed up. But you want to stand out, get the knowledge of it. Get the knowledge of the offense, get the knowledge of the defense, understand it, be another coach on the field, and you will get opportunities to play. I promise you that.
Awesome, Coach. Well, you guys heard here first. Coming to a sideline near you pretty soon, Coach Matthew Castro of the RGV Vixens. Coach, it was great to have you on. Great conversation. We just can't all wait to be out there once again. I know a lot of people enjoy the Women's Football League, regardless of what league it is. I know a lot of people like to go out there and watch it. It's certainly become one of the best spectacles here in the RGV, things to go out there and do. So we cannot wait till everything kind of gets back to normal and to see you out there, Coach. And again, for me and everybody at Real Sports Live, congratulations on being
Thank you.
New head coach.
Thank you. And, to any like we said, any women out there looking to join teams that want to try it out, we'll start posting our workouts, our off-season workouts, and we'll start posting our tryout dates and come out. It's always good to learn from players that have played there before, which the Vixens have players that are experienced, and a coach with myself and the other coaches that have a lot of years of experience coaching guys. So I thank you for the opportunity to be on here, and I appreciate it.
And no problem, Coach. And I'm sure everybody out there listening who wants to play, I'm sure you guys will be in good hands from a very experienced coach. And but Coach, thank you once again. It's going to do it for us here at Real Sports Live Sideline Sit Down today. We only had 2 shows, and I just want to say, everybody out there dealing with the flood and everything and the pandemic, just be safe out there. You're in our thoughts and prayers. We're here, and everybody at Real Sports Live, everybody take care in the Rio Grande Valley. Once again, for Coach Matthew Castro, myself, Real Sports Live, this has been the Sideline Sit Down. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Find us on YouTube, Apple TV, and the Roku Network. You can be watching all our live games on replay there. So just keep it here for sports news and content at Real Sports Live. Coach, thank you once again, and have a great day.